Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Sakshi Kumhar and our today's topic is sensors and different types of sensors. Our contents of the topics are what are the sensors, what are the different types of sensors and different categories of the sensors. Now let's start with what is sensor. A sensor is a device that detects and responds to some type of input from the physical environment. The input can be light, heat, motion, moisture, pressure, or any number of other environmental phenomena. The output is generally a signal that is converted to a human readable display at a sensory location or transmitted electronically over a network for reading or further processing. Sensors play a pivotal role in the Internet of Things. They make it possible to create an ecosystem for collecting and processing data about a specific environment so it can be monitored, managed, and controlled more easily and efficiently. Internet of Things sensors are used in homes, out in the field, in automobiles, on airplanes, in industrial settings, and in other environments. Sensors bridge the gap between the physical world and logical world, acting as the eyes and ears for a computing infrastructure that analyzes and acts upon the data collected from the sensors. Sensors can be categorized in multiple ways. One common approach is to classify them as either active or passive. Next point is different categories of sensors. Active or passive. Sensors can be categorized based on whether they produce an energy output and typically require an external power supply, or whether they simply receive energy and typically require no external power supply. Next one is invasive or non-invasive. Sensors can be categorized based on whether a sensor is part of the environment it is measuring or external to it. Next is contact or non-contact. Sensors can be categorized based on whether they require physical contact with what they are measuring or not. Absolute or relative. Sensors can be categorized based on whether they measure or an absolute scale or based on a difference with a fixed variable reference value. Sensors can be categorized based on the specific industry or vertical where they are being used. Sensors can be categorized based on the physical mechanisms used to measure sensory input. For example, thermoelectric, electrochemical, optic, electric, fluid mechanic. And sensors can be categorized based on their applications or what physical variables they measure. Next point is different types of sensors. Position sensor. A position sensor measures the position of an object. The position measurement can be either in an absolute term, absolute position sensor, or in relative term, displacement sensor. Position sensor can be linear, angular, or multi-axis. For example, potentiometer. Next one is force sensor. Force sensor detects whether a physical force is applied and whether the magnitude of a force is beyond a threshold. For example, viscometer. Next one is flow control. Flow sensors detect the rate of the fluid flow. They measure the value or rate of fluid that has passed through a system in a given period of a time. Next one is humidity sensor. Humidity sensor detects humidity amount of water vapor in the air or a mass. Humidity levels can be measured in the various ways: absolute humidity, relative humidity, and mass ratio, and so on. For example, soil moisture sensor. Next one is light sensor. Light sensor detect the presence of light, visual or in invisible way. For example, photodetector. Next one is temperature sensor. Temperature sensors measures the amount of heat or cold that is present in a system. They can be broadly of two types: contact and non-contact. Contact temperature sensors need to be in a physical contact with the object being sensed. Non-contact sensors do not need a physical contact as they measure temperature through convection and radiation. For example, thermometer. Next is chemical sensor. Chemical sensor measure the concentration of chemicals in a system. When subjected to a mix of chemicals, chemical sensors are typically selective for a target type of chemical. For example, CO2. CO2 sensor senses only carbon dioxide. Next one is biosensor. Biosensor detects various biological elements such as organisms, tissues, cells, enzymes, antibiotics, and nucleic acid. For example, blood glucose biosensor. Except of these types, there are many other types of sensors. For example, velocity and acceleration. Velocity sensors may be linear or angular, indicating how fast an object moves along a straight line or how fast it rotates. Acceleration sensors measure changes in velocity. For example, accelerometer. Next one is radiation sensors. Radiation sensor detects radiation in the environment. Radiation can be sensed by ionization detection. For example, Geiger-Müller counter. And the next one is occupancy and motion sensor. Motion sensor detects the presence of people and animals in a area, while motion sensors also detects the peoples and objects. The difference between the two is that occupancy sensors generate a signal even when a person is stationary, whereas motion sensors do not. For example, electric eye. This is all about the types of sensors and sensor. Thank you.